So, welcome to today. We are going to learn about restorative justice and Arthur Brown's what he's working on right now. He was one of our Embracing the Spirit grant recipients, really in courageous communities and figuring out how to do this work well. So, Arthur, welcome today.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to find out more about where every single time I chat with you, something's new and different and emerging. And so um, I'd love you to kind of introduce everyone to what you're up to. What is the initiative that you're working on?
Okay, thank you very much, Carla. So it's called Restored Potential, and what it came out of was I observed that there was a lack, there's a little gap in the restorative justice system for people who have a professional background when they finish their sentence. And the reason I observed that is I observed it firsthand. I had a very good professional career a little over a decade ago, and I ran afoul of the law. And so I had to deal with the consequences of that. And what I found when I finished that, when I finished paying my debt, was that uh, it also meant the end of my career, because although what I had done was completely unrelated to my work, when you are in professional work, a criminal record tends to be a bar to any future employment, regardless of what it was. And so I quickly found out that there were no supports available for me. For instance, there's the John Howard Society and the Elizabeth Fry Society, but they specialize in people who are from a non-professional background. And when I sent my resume to them, they said, "I'm sorry, we actually can't even help you. We don't have any placements for someone like you." They're great at helping people back into a trade job or a service job, and that's great. And those are all wonderful, honest work. But I realized that people with a professional background, they were being prevented from working at their what their potential had been before, which is it's a disadvantage to them. It's a disadvantage to society. It's a disadvantage to the tax base because they're not earning what they could earn. And so I started chatting. Well, actually, so I left it on the back burner for a long time, and then but it always struck me that this is a terrible gap. I was lucky, Carla, that I had some other family supports and other assets that I could rely on, but not everyone has those. And so it still was on my mind for the decade that followed. And then with COVID last year, the lockdowns and shutdowns and everything, I found myself spending a lot of time at home with a lot of time on my hands. And I thought, maybe it's time for me to do something about this finally. And I talked to a few people that I know that work in justice and social justice, and including in the United Church. And they said, you're actually really onto something here. This is something that needs to be addressed.
That's great. And
So,
so, from what I remember when you first came up with this, you're like, okay, so if there's professional jobs, what could it look like? And there seemed to be like two pieces that you were really like, okay, so we can actually work with employers who would be
mhm,
willing to have these types of conversations with us. And so it
mhm,
would actually be a job. And then there was this other side that you were talking about. Well, self-employment also
mhm.
offers an avenue that way. So can you tell me a little bit about what like how you have
Sure.
formulated what to do?
Yep. So as you alluded to, originally the employment placement was, I thought, was going to be the main piece of this. And so my goal was to match up um, ex-offenders who have a professional resume with employers who need professional staff and would agree to give them a second chance without holding their criminal record against them, because they've paid their debt. And it's not, I really don't see why an employer needs to continue to impose a sentence on somebody like that. And so I've been very lucky and successful in building up a small network of employers who are willing to hire people with a criminal background, and they're not gonna ask any questions about that. And so I have those jobs, and then I get I'm trying to get referrals from people in corrections for people that would like to go into those jobs. So I got that set up, but at the same time, I was thinking that, okay, maybe for some people, getting back in the workforce is not the right answer. For some people, the best job is going to be the one they create for themselves with a small business. And I had heard over the years how successful microloan programs can be, that they have a really high rate of being repaid, because it's people that normally maybe they can't avail themselves of traditional sources of credit, and they're very grateful for the opportunity, and they work hard to pay the money back. And so I thought, okay, so let's see if we can find some sources of funding, and also working with another community loan provider. Fortunately, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They gave me all their templates and underwriting rules and whatnot. I adapted those to fit more of this situation. And so I got that all set up. And one of my main advisors on this, I've had lots of wonderful people helping me on this, has been a gentleman who's a senior corrections chaplain for Atlantic Canada. And he pointed out to me that on the microloan side of it, I should broaden it to include non-professionals, because while the John Howard Society and Elizabeth Fry Society, they will help people get employment if they're from a trade or general service background. But there's nobody, as far as anyone knows that I've talked to, that has microloans available for ex-offenders. And so he was saying, why don't you, because of the small number of ex-offenders that have professional backgrounds, he said, why don't you consider broadening that part of the program? Keep the employment side for professionals, but the microloan side, broaden that to anybody. Of course, they still have to have like a business plan, which I can help them with that. And there's some underwriting criteria, but it's not going to be as strict as it would be for a bank. And so there's been probably, I think, even more interest in that side of it. And so I think that's, although I'm going to continue with the two streams, I think that the microloan part of it may become the signature part of the initiative.
I love that. I love that that is with you still listening and you actively like it sounds like just in you telling your story right there, you can just see like the breadth of people you've already spoken to. Like it just seems like you had conversations with so many people and
Yeah.
listening deeply and being willing to pivot. So maybe starting with like you've learned that and that was great. Are there other learnings that you've had through this process and your own growth?
Mhm. Well, one thing I've learned is that it's hard to start a new initiative and to have early acceptance of it. As you alluded to, there's been just scores of people who've been so supportive of this emotionally and advising me and asking what they can do to help. Um, but it's been a bit slow in getting the referrals that I need from corrections staff uh, for the employment side of it or the microloan side of it. So I think I maybe had a bit of rose-colored glasses on at the start, that I'd build this and people would just be like, it would open the floodgates for people that want this. But uh, like with anything new like this, it's going to have to get some success stories behind it, and then word should spread, and there should be increased uptake of it.
Wow. It sounds, yeah, like it really seems like relationships is at the core of all this work. And
Mhm.
it's really interesting, like you said, like sometimes I think the assumption might be that'd be harder to get the microloans. It would be harder to get the financial institution behind you. It would be harder to have the employers, but it's sounding like surprisingly, it's actually getting the referrals is the hard part. You would probably not uh,
That's right.
guess
Yeah.
that. And,
Yeah.
and so I wonder if there's other surprises or other unexpected outcomes. I mean, you've already given us a few. Are there any other things that, surprised you in this journey?
One was that it's not as easy as I thought once somebody's got a referral for me to place them. So, for instance, a chaplain in corrections, a different chaplain, he did have an excellent person who needed a job and is going to be released soon. Fantastic resume. And I had a number of openings at a university that this gentleman would have been really well suited for. But unfortunately, what I hadn't thought about in planning this is that he has no access to a computer while he is still incarcerated. And so he couldn't apply in time. Although the chaplain sent me his resume, I can't apply on this guy's behalf. The guy has to do his own application and have the interviews and whatnot. And so he was unable to, even though there were some jobs he could have been placed in, were unable to help him. So I've learned also that I need to be more realistic in dealing with the existing protocols and setup for these people so either I have to find a way for them to access the program while they're still incarcerated, or I need to move the focus to the agencies that are dealing with them after their release. And that's kind of what we've been doing over the summer. Is we've increased our dialogue with John Howard Society and Elizabeth Fry Society, because they're the ones who are dealing with these folks after the fact, after the release, I should say. And so I've had to adapt to that as well.
Wow. That's so constant learning. Just an amazing story of your perseverance and relationship building. So I think everyone, and I'm wondering, what's next? I know you've built all these relationships, you've done all this learning, you're starting to build this network out. You're seeing like what might work better than other things. So what is next? What are you hopeful of?
I think we have a project in the pipeline right now that is going to be very fruitful. It's with one of the societies that I mentioned, and what they would like to do is they would like to get a microloan to start a thrift store slash crafting outlet for their clients. And that once we get that set up for them, because a lot of their clients, or most of them, I should say, have no entrepreneurial background. So they're going to need this. I guess another thing that I've learned is that I can't just like open the gates and say, okay, apply now and we'll see what we can do for you. I'm going to have to help people to do the business plan. And another piece that I failed to mention is that when we do put out a microloan, we're going to be providing business mentoring for these folks, because it's not just enough to push the money out there and say sink or swim. We have to help them swim and help them to be successful and repay the loan. So with this particular project, I'm going to be helping them to write their business plan, and then if we can put the loan out for them, I'm going to be helping them with the business mentoring or finding additional business mentors for them, monitoring. And then the exciting part of that, Carla, is that it's going to be an incubator for other projects. So as they have maybe 20 of their clients that are going to participate in this venture, and then those who are more successful with it and seem entrepreneurial, they're going to spin off to have their own businesses doing this crafting or whatever, and maybe set up an Etsy shop online or maybe a physical location, and they will all need microloans. So I think it's gonna be a big part of getting that story out once the initial project is successful and once we've spun out a few of these others.
So I love this. It's everything starts with the story. And I think what you're just demonstrating right now is you've told your own story. And I thank you for that, of maybe inspiring other people. So thank you, Arthur.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for talking to me about this.